Welcome to a new edition of South Sound Business Report, where on today's program we'll be talking to the mechanic. Stay tuned. Hello, I'm Jeff Rounce. Thanks for being with us on today's program, and thanks also to Puget Sound Energy for its long-term financial support of South Sound Business Report. On today's program, we're looking at a number of independent auto repair businesses around the South Sound, and we've seen some statistics from the Census Bureau and from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, as well as the Trade Association. It indicates from the year 2002 up through estimated through 2011, the number of shops is down from about 83,000 to just under 76,000. Estimated revenues and the number of individuals working as mechanics is also down. Brian Smith is the owner of Gig Harbor Automotive. He's also on the board of directors of the statewide trade association, Automotive Service Association of Washington. Tell me about the health of the industry. Are things doing well for the general repair business?
Yeah, they're doing quite well. I don't think there's been a more exciting time to be in this industry. Historically speaking, we're seeing obviously different things in our cars today from a technology standpoint. The workload in our shops like mine is continuing to thrive even in the current economic conditions.
Now, is it maintenance work or is it repair work?
We're seeing the repair work tick up a little bit.
Okay.
Whereas prior to 2008, when the economy started to suffer, we were definitely seeing our business models change more towards a maintenance-oriented approach to our customers' vehicles. Now people are keeping their cars longer for obvious reasons. And what that's translated to in businesses like ours is more repair work.
Right. Right.
Where somebody may have been tempted to trade a car in if they were faced with a fairly significant investment in the past, that line in the sand has moved, and they're hanging on to the cars and keeping them on the road longer so they don't have to go buy a new one.
Of course, the whole automotive industry is a little more than 100 years old, and it's changed in the last couple of generations. It's now pretty much a global fleet, isn't it? It used to be Detroit built all the cars that all of us drove in this country, and that's not true anymore.
No, and you're right, the industry's changed exponentially.
Does it make it more difficult for people like your business?
It's made it challenging, certainly, but we've been part of a very adaptable industry. I can remember in the early 80s when the first computerized cars started coming into our bays, we were basket cases. How in the world are we ever going to work on these things? Mm-hmm. And the reality is that there's more technology and complexity in a lighting circuit in today's cars than there was in that whole vehicle back in the early 80s.
Right.
So again, we're adaptable.
And I know at the earliest times of more sophisticated computerization of vehicles, the manufacturers tended to hold that technology very close to their own vest, protecting their dealerships. Has that changed? Are you independent operators able to work on the cars as you need?
Most definitely. And information availability has been kind of a hot button in our industry for several years now. There are some that will maintain that we don't have the information that we need to available, and that's simply not true.
Brian, let's talk about the ASA, the Trade Association. Mm-hmm. What's its purpose and what kinds of programs does it offer?
The Automotive Service Association of Washington is an organization of independent shop owners like us. I think we have 500 or so here in Washington State. We're affiliated with the Automotive Service Association on a national level. Mm-hmm. And basically the whole premise is to support member businesses, help them become more successful, help them take care of their customers, their employees, and ultimately improve the industry as a whole.
So the strength in numbers comes because you can learn from each other. You can perhaps group buy on services or benefits or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And training.
You hit the nail on the head as far as learning from each other.
Right.
There are a multitude of different things that make the Automotive Service Association a great entity to be part of. We have management and technical training opportunities. We have discounted services available to us. But the networking, learning from fellow shop owners is really where the meat and potatoes is. I can tell you without any reservation that if it wasn't for our involvement in ASA, if we were still here today, there's no way it would be with the vision that we have
That's
for the
awesome.
future of our business.
Congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Our program co-host, Holly Smith-Peterson, is visiting another shop here in the South Sound, and let's take that report.
Robert, you have a really interesting story. You were the head mechanic at a local shop, and when that shop closed, you took some of those employees and opened your own. You mentioned that there were several factors that had hurt auto mechanics and their businesses, cash for clunkers being one of them. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, the Cash for Clunker program, designed to get polluting cars off the road, offered people a trade-in for their old car if they would go out and buy a new car, and it was originally designed to jumpstart new car sales. The problem was, to qualify for a new car, you had to have fairly good credit. So the people that were truly driving clunkers didn't qualify for the new cars. So all those mid-grade cars with, you know, mid mileage on them were traded into Cash for Clunkers. So people with older cars had to keep driving their older cars, and the, you know, people with fairly good credit went and bought new cars. So all those cars that we would have normally been working on right now for their second or third owners were gone, destroyed, removed from the market.
So the upshot is that people who bought the new cars are under warranty, people with the old cars can't afford to repair them,
Correct.
leaving a hole where the shops are.
Correct.
You mentioned another factor too, being insurance. The relationship between insurance companies and how they pay for things has also hurt your industry. Tell me about that.
Yeah, on the body shop side, the way the insurance companies decide what they're going to cover and what they're not going to cover, and a lot of them now are pushing for people to use used parts or go to specified repair facilities, and they're trying to make repairs for as little as possible, which is always good for them, but not so good for you, the consumer. For example, you get in a wreck and one of your wheels is destroyed, you have to get one new tire. Well, your car is all-wheel drive and has traction control system, you have to replace all four.
Exactly.
So now you're on the hook for 3 tires that had a good 50 to 60% life on them just because one tire got hit. Otherwise, all your lights are on and your traction control system's freaking out.
And so you've got a pain in the neck trying to deal with the insurance
company. And you have to deal with
company.
the insurance company on that. They should pay for the other 3 tires, but they don't want to. So that's, you know, problems created by the insurance company trying to save a dime.
Well, how has your shop in particular been able to survive the recession so far, opening in 2009?
Primarily, we just really keep everything close to the chest, try to pay cash for everything as possible, and really watch everything we spend, and be very careful about our competitiveness with other shops and still maintain a high quality standard. So I try to be competitive with the dealership and use original equipment parts and try to avoid you know, lower quality parts. And we've got this problem right now. A lot of people are really trying to save money in car repair because they frankly can't afford to fix some things. So they'll go to the guy on the Craigslist and they'll get their timing belt done, and he won't do the water pump because he saved them $120. 5,000 miles later, the water pump fails, the belt comes off, the valves bend in the engine, and they didn't save any money all of a sudden. And that's a big one right now, is people trying to save money, and it usually winds up costing them in the long run because they do something for the short term that saved them some money, but in the long run it'll wind up costing them. You know, cheap parts are cheap parts for a reason.
Now you mentioned this, part of your bread and butter is European vehicles.
Yes.
Let's talk about another niche, which is the alternative fuel vehicles. Are those a growing business?
It's very slow in this state. We do get a number of flex fuel vehicles. The problem is we don't have any E85 stations in Washington State for the most part. I think there's 2 or 3 in the state right now, last I checked. And it's a growing market, and the potential is out there. We just don't have that. There's a lot of biodiesel going around right now, but with no standard for biodiesel, you never know what you're going to get. They don't have an industry standard on how that fuel is filtered or anything, so you're hit and miss on the French fry diesel fuel.
I think you'd mentioned too that with the alternative fuel vehicles, they're under warranty, so they're just starting to come out of market. Will there be, for techs, will there be jobs coming up for them, or what kind of
On the
tech jobs are
hybrid
there?
side of the system, there will be, because with the hybrid cars versus an all-electric car, you still have your gas-powered engine, the same thing that's been around since, you know, the Model T. You've got a gas-powered engine driving the generator to feed the batteries. The battery packs and the generators and the electric drive systems have a fairly good coverage from the factory for warranty. The gas part of the system, however, is pretty much like a regular car. So we still have the gas engine to deal with in the hybrid cars, and their longevity is fairly good.
One final question. You have mentioned the importance of hiring good workers and paying them well. Why is that a part of your business?
Employee retention is imperative for quality control. If you have people in place that stay there, you have good quality control. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do, and they do it. If you change employees all the time, your quality is really hard to keep track of because you never know what you're going to get. You know, one day you'll have a great guy, the next day you'll have a not so great guy, and it's really hard to keep keep that quality up there if you have a lot of turnover. So if you pay them well and you abuse them as much as possible, I had to throw that in there for
That's
Mike.
Okay.
You'll have a better product in the end, no matter what it is.
Okay, Robert Collier, thanks so much for being with us today and sharing your shop.
So far on today's program, we've visited 2 different independent automotive repair shops from around the South Sound and talked with their owners and their managers. But beyond them and their employees, there are other businesses related to the automotive repair world. This is Mike Whyte. He's an entrepreneur franchisee of Matco Tools, has been for 4.5 years. Basically, your job is to bring the tools of the trade to the mechanics who are servicing our cars. So you're out talking with people in the shops, and what kind of trends have you been observing in your time?
Well, the past 4.5 years, I've seen the shops go from, say, maybe 6 mechanics in the shops down to 4. I've seen shop owners come back into the shops and actually work on the cars themselves, where before they were doing more of the administrative. And that's pretty much it. I mean, just the downsizing a little bit of some of these shops.
Is the squeeze on? Are people feeling the pressure of the economy?
Absolutely, and I mean, we are too. And I've seen guys, they back off on their tool purchases, and some guys have a harder time making payments on the things they've already purchased. So that is, the biggest thing that I've seen, is in the industry.
Now, your business, Mike, is basically a retail store on wheels.
Correct.
You take the showroom to the shop.
Yes.
How does your business operate? Are you dealing with the shop owners, or are you making sales to the individual mechanics?
Both.
Okay.
The shop owners, here again, the shop owners that are actually in the shops still working will buy tools for themselves, or if they need shop equipment, scan tools, and things of that nature, they usually do the bigger purchases. The technicians themselves are required to purchase their own tools to to make their money. So I deal with both, and sometimes even the service writers get involved because they may work on cars when they're at home.
Okay.
So that's it's pretty much everybody at the shop.
And we're in what I would call a general automotive repair shop. You also call on body shops, and what other kinds of accounts do you have in your route?
Yeah, body shops, school districts, golf course maintenance facilities, just to name a couple. Anywhere where there's a mechanic, we go to.
And maintaining equipment or providing service. Are these other customers, are they showing signs of what we're all facing in the economy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The golf courses, I've seen, they have less. Usually most golf courses only have one mechanic anyways. I've seen some golf courses that are sharing mechanics now. I see that they're repairing more equipment though than purchasing more equipment, is what I've noticed. And the school districts, I would say, have stayed relatively the same. I mean, they deal with our precious cargo.
That's right. Kids on a bus are pretty darn important.
Exactly. So it's I'm glad I know the technicians that work on my kids' bus. But
so inside your truck, what would your customers be seeing, and what would they be looking for?
Depending on the technician, my newer technicians are going to be looking for more basic tools, whether those are sockets, screwdrivers, ratchets, and things of that nature, or maybe a new toolbox. The older technicians are generally looking for maybe more specialty tools.
Okay.
Or scan tool equipment, things that are specific to a certain job on a car.
Give us an idea of the price range
of
tools, basic tools, and up through the scan equipment. I think you mentioned that a good computer analyzer can be $50,000 or more.
Absolutely, and there's, but you can start with a basic code reader, that costs you $100.
Okay.
But that can also help a technician out to get him, to solve the problem with the vehicle.
And a good socket set or a good tool box?
We have tool carts that start at $200, and I've got one on my truck right now that retails for $12,000.
Wow, wow. So your typical request might have changed a bit over time, but you're still finding good customers out there.
Absolutely. The technicians that are in the shops now, I think, are fairly stable. I think the economy has
probably already washed out any that were not quite as strong.
Correct. And I think that what we have now is I don't believe we're going down any further. I think that I'm seeing the shops come back. The past 6 months have been my business has been tremendous. It's been fantastic. So. But the only reason my business is that way right now is because the shops are busy.
Right. Thanks for being with us.
Okay,
Mike
thank
Whyte,
you for having me.
the Matco Tool Root Sales Guy here. We'll be back with more of our program after this word from our sponsor, Puget Sound Energy.
For more than 12 years, Providence St. Peter Hospital has been partnering with PSE's Energy Efficiency Program. As a result, in the past year, we've been able to save over $700,000 on our utility bill.
What PSE is doing by investing in renewable energy and wind farms is really an investment in the future.
We're in the community and on call for our customers day or night.
PSE is working hard to provide me and my family with dependable service.
Is celebrating its 70th anniversary. How long has this program been around, and what's the growth been like?
The automotive program here at Clover Park has been around almost 70 years. I don't know exactly how long, but it's been a major part of Clover Park and vocational education here. The enrollment has always been steady. I was a student here back in the 70s, and the program was full then. And right now we have a 2-year waiting list waiting to get into our automotive program here at Clover Park.
What's the capacity? What are the numbers like now?
Right now we're running a full capacity. We're running approximately 20 students per instructor. Including the body shop side of the house, we have somewhere around 200 students in this building.
And how many instructors?
There are 6 instructors, 4 auto technician instructors and 2 collision instructors.
And there's a newer part of the program that you were part of setting up. That is the hybrid program?
Correct.
And can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we started this hybrid program about 4 years ago. I saw that that industry was changing. This was a car that was coming out that we really needed to be able to work on. And I looked at the safety aspect of it. These cars are operating at over 500 volts, 3-phase AC, lots of amperage, and so it's a huge safety factor. So I wanted to make sure that we got students coming through Clover Park that could go out to industry and work on these cars, diagnose them correctly, and do all of that safely.
What's the student growth been like?
Well, like I said, we have over a 2-year waiting list. So the industry has always stayed very steady. Employment has always been really good for auto technicians.
But for the hybrid part of it?
For the hybrid part of it, we're seeing a growth. The first time I offered this class, I only had 3 students. The last time I ran it in the spring, I had 16 students.
So that's a huge multiplication factor.
It is.
And you said you have already had students who have told you that they're interested in going through the program next year.
Correct. It looks like I'm going to be able to run a full class once again next spring.
So what kinds of jobs are you teaching here? What kinds of skills are these students going to come away with in both programs?
In the auto technician program, the students that complete the degree program are going to be general repair technicians that they can go to work at a dealership, they can work at an independent, they can work at any of the tire shops and things like that. But the people that come through the hybrid portion as well, it gives them that extra piece where they can work at a shop that is specializing in hybrids.
So to work on the hybrid, or to be in the hybrid program, you have to first have experience with auto service.
Correct.
Okay.
To go through my hybrid section, they have to complete an entire automotive program,
okay,
or have 2 years industry experience, and then they have to pass my little oral examination before I let them in.
Are there any specialized jobs for those who go through the hybrid program?
Most of the dealers nowadays,
Okay.
most of the manufacturers have some form of electric or hybrid vehicle today. And at the dealership level, they won't allow people to work on those cars without training in them. So I've already placed a number of students at local area dealers that sell hybrid vehicles. And it was because of their hybrid training that they got from Clover Park.
Okay. And what does the future of the program look like? What do you have in the works as far as the auto services?
We are continuing to grow the hybrid piece, and we also have an alternate fuels piece. And so we're experimenting with diesel and compressed natural gas and hydrogen. When I taught the class in the spring, we actually made some biodiesel, and we also made some hydrogen, and we ran a small gas engine on some hydrogen. So it was kind of fun.
Very cool. What kind of jobs could you get with that training?
Once again, with the alternate fuels thing, especially with the diesel and the growth in the vehicles that are producing diesel engines today, you know, it's a much better market. And so if you have training in that, it's going to make you a much more flexible employee. It's going to open up the possibilities for employment as well. Okay,
and finally, just the automotive services industry as a whole, where do you see that going in the next 5 years or so?
I see it just getting better and better all the time. The cars are safer, they're more dependable than they ever have been. The technology, the growth in the technology has been incredible. Today's automobile has more sophisticated electronics than what it took to put the first man on the moon. So we're starting to see people that are coming in that are more excited, maybe not as mechanically inclined as they used to be, but they're very techno-savvy. And because of that, they're able to work on today's car. And it's just going to get more. It's an exciting time to be in the automotive industry.
That's fantastic to hear. Wayne Bridges, thanks for being with us today.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Holly. We have one more stop on our trip around the South Sound, looking at some fine automobile repair shops today for the program. This is Mark Simons, owner and operator of Rolf's Import Auto Service, which has a location in Fife as well as this one in Lakewood. Beside him is his dad, Rolf. Rolf started this business in 1970 after coming to the U.S. from Germany before that. Rolf, what was it that, I'm understanding that your background in Germany was tool and die apprenticeship?
Yeah, that's correct. So.
And how did that translate into an auto repair shop?
Well, it was for Mercedes-Benz, so, and so I just, then in 1970 found interest in that, and back then, you know, I mean, it's if you had a good basic training, you just about could do anything. You know?
Yeah.
So it's,
and so you started with all models of automobiles, or?
Well, it was mostly back then. It was mixed, domestic and European. So it's, but more domestic than Europeans. And then later on, we branched out to just more.
So, Mark, I know that you initially didn't follow your dad's step into the shop. What did you do?
I was a food and beverage manager for golf and country clubs and into clubhouse management, where locally here I worked with Furcrest Golf Club, and then as a general manager for Midland Golf and Country Club in Midland, Texas.
I see. That's not quite like repairing people's automobiles.
It's not.
What about it, though, is transferable?
The customer service end of it is, you know, I grew up around the shop, so mechanically inclined I was, and always had a passion for vehicles, and but I brought the customer service into our business a little, because I had that extensive background with, you know, building customer service, and so that, I guess that's where I where I brought to the table here.
Rolf, did you have in your mind when you started your business and he was just a little whippersnapper, did you think maybe he'd come to it?
I kind of thought so, but then it's just, you know, this street got rougher and rougher. So, and then he didn't show much interest as a youngster, you know what I mean? So it's, so I figured it would go away. But then later we talked about it in like the early 2000s, and I thought it was good for the business because, you know, it's, that's what the shop needed, was managing skills, you know what I mean? So it's, which I didn't have, so.
So you were very successful in operating a business. You now see your son being very successful in operating, and yet it's a different business in some ways, isn't it?
pretty much. But then I brought the customer base, I mean, which is, you know, is trust, and they trusted him right away, I mean, so which was good, though.
How do you see it different in today's generation versus what you saw maybe when you were a youngster hanging around the shop?
My dad was he was a mechanic,
right.
And so he was able to build that trust level real well with his customers because he could explain to them the mechanics of it and how the operation of the car was. My version, I didn't know as much about the mechanical of the vehicle, the mechanics of the car. So I guess the biggest difference between what I saw growing up is the fact that he was working on the cars, and I myself don't necessarily work on the cars that much. So we had to change, you know, the customer base are real similar to the country club and versus, you know, well, our end being the high-end, you know, Mercedes, BMW. Their customer base was real similar to the country clubs to our business here. So I started doing more of, you know, building the trust through explaining the costs and not so much on the mechanical end, but more of the customer end, what we're going to do for you, you know, pickups and deliveries, rental cars, some of those aspects that my dad didn't necessarily do a lot of back then. And so that's that's what a lot of customers are looking for these days, are more of the added benefits of why they bring their car here. The mechanical end is one end. Obviously, they trust us because we, you know what we're doing around the cars. But a lot of people can do that, and so one of the things they liked about what we've built here is the added features that go along with it.
Rolf, you're still able to walk through the shop, I noticed, and what do you see happening differently today than when you were operating the business?
Well, the thing is, it's you know, you can't be jack of all trades and be good at it. Okay. I mean, so it's and that's why you have to have the skills to hire somebody which can do the work for you. I mean, and have service advisors which are the same. I mean, so it's, and you see, I used to be the mechanic, the service advisor, the janitor, and I mean, everything. And
son didn't sign on for that much, did he?
And it makes it tough to be a good mechanic, you see, so because I'm not trained in any other fields except in the mechanic portion of it. So so it was sometimes
is the technology different now? Are the cars?
Oh yeah, sure. Naturally, it's now it's all mainly electronics. I mean, so it's cars last. I mean, they last longer, and I mean they're much better developed than they were.
Fascinating to see two generations in one shop. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Rolf, the two Simons, for sharing their story with us today. Holly?
And that's our South Sound Business Report look at the automotive services industry. We thank Puget Sound Energy for its longtime sponsorship of this program. And our special thanks to Richard Aronson and Mobility Media Design for his assistance in the production of this program. We'll be back next week with another episode of South Sound Business Report, and we invite you to join us. Tune in, same time, same channel.